What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and yet another week where we get a late equalizer to make it 1 point game for both teams. And I gotta give all credit where it's due. Sporting Kansas City did as much as they could to try to knock us off of our little unbeaten streak. It's been fairly interesting to see, just how far are we going to go on this unbeaten streak, and just how far some teams willing to go to try to beat us. And I mean, really, they brought out all the stops. I mean, the defense was on point. Attack, they were pushing as many people forward as possible. In midfield, they were trying to control the ball. And man, what a man of the match performance by Chris Pinso. I mean, just wow. He was exactly what Sporting Kansas City needed tonight. I mean, I've never seen somebody just be so ready and raring to go for Sporting Kansas City before. I mean, I haven't really watched a whole lot of them, but I don't think I've ever seen a performance quite like him tonight. It was spectacular. If you're wondering who Chris Pinso is because he's not a name on the Sporting Kansas City clean sheet, he's the ref. Yeah, he really tried to help them out tonight. It just gave it his all. Gave it his all. I mean, the penalty, the yellow cards, the fouls he was calling, everything he could possibly do to try to give them the 3 points. And man, he came close. We had to give it our all to make sure that he couldn't give them the 3 points, but whew, he really cut it close for us. And special shout out to JP Delacamera and Ian Joy up in the commentary box for really praising the referee on how one-sided he was being. It's always nice to know that Fox Sports has not our best interest in mind. But anyway, let's talk about the referees to kick this whole thing off, because it's another thing that once again needs to be addressed. I don't know how many times I've had to talk about it. I don't know how many times it's going to happen this season. They've even added the VAR ref, and I realize you can only really judge on goals, red cards, mistaken identity, or there's one other one. Maybe offsides? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, there are like 4 major decisions that VAR helps with. What about PKs? A PK is technically a goal. So how come the VAR can't go back on a decision that's about to lead to a goal and say, no, he just fell over. You made a stupid call, no PK, and play continues? Why is it only, oh, no, it's only after they score. And then we go back and look. You can't decide in that moment, okay, let's look at this, hang on, before you actually take the PK, let's actually have the VAR look at it and make sure, was it a penalty? But no, just ref makes a terrible call, VAR does nothing, and they go score, and now we're 1-0 down. And just, I once again also realize that this is specifically for certain things, but there has to be a point where the referees have to get better. The VAR only helps so much. There still has to be a moment where the referees need to get better, because tonight watching him was just idiotic. Every single time, I don't even remember his name now, number 9 for Sporting Kansas City. Every single time he falls over. Like, literally just falls over. Somebody's coming to put in a challenge. Whoosh, tweet! Foul for Sporting Kansas City. It just, every single time. He fell for it every single time. It was ridiculous. Like, at some point, you have to look at this and say, okay, he's going down way too easy. I'm not going to call that one. But no, he called every single one, and every single one set up a very dangerous set-piece opportunity. One in particular being the PK that led to their only goal. So, his decisions on fouls tonight were terrible. There's even one where Miguel gets kicked from behind, he falls over, tries to grab the ball, and then gets a handball called on him. Why not call the foul? There's another decision early on in the game. Guy comes in, studs up. Yes, he's trying to block the ball that Perez was trying to kick, but he left his foot in. He left his studs up and ends up catching him on the inside of the leg. No foul. Play on. Hello? Studs up into the side of his leg. If he like stuck his leg out, went to block it, and then pulled out of the challenge when he saw the ball was away, fine. I have no problem with this. He didn't pull out. He went straight through, caught him on the side of the leg, and then what makes it even better, and this is when I turned off the volume because God, he enjoys an idiot. Perez is sitting there on the ground and is like, look, he got me. I've got 2 stud marks in my leg where he got me. And he's like, oh, I don't know what he showed in his leg for. I'm like, why do you think? You see the stud marks? I have a terrible quality TV that I'm watching. I can't even tell sometimes who the players are whenever we're pulled back from a distance because that's how bad the quality is. I can see the freaking studs in his legs. And you're just, I don't know what he showed him for. It's just a simple challenge. He's just a little bit late. That's all. You're an idiot, Ian. Go somewhere else. You too, JP, but I think we all knew JP was an idiot. And then right after, the other problem I have with this is that right after Jeff goes into a challenge, it's late, it's a slide tackle. What makes it even better, he gets a yellow right away. Like, no question, ref's just like, that's a yellow. Without even thinking about it, without even looking at it, he comes sliding in and it's a yellow, and then Carlos does the same thing later. I go on halftime because I had the volume turned off at this point because I did not want to listen to those 2 morons. I go in at halftime, I turn up the volume because I'm like, alright, I want to see if they're going to go back and talk about some of these bad decisions from the referee. You know, the missed, probably red card on this one guy. Jeff and Carlos getting a yellow, you know, I wouldn't say both of them deserve a yellow. Maybe Carlos is a little bit more just because he was really like, he was trying to stop the play. He was trying to stop the build-up. So his slide was probably a little bit more of a yellow. Jeff's just looked like, you know, it looked bad. But when you watch it again on the replay, it's like, never mind. He just kind of slid into him. You know, it wasn't really dangerous. He wasn't really stopping any breakup or build-up play. It's just he slid into him. And so I go in. I'm like, all right, are they going to talk about any of this stuff? They don't talk about the red card challenge from whatever his name was into Perez's leg at all. They just completely skip over it. They go straight to Jeff's challenge. It's like, oh, he probably got away with that one day. He probably could have got a straight red for that one. Okay. How much does Sporting pay off the referees and the commentators in this situation? Because this is ridiculous. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. How one-sided everything is against us. So I realized I spent a lot of time talking about this. Let's move on to something a bit more bright. Individual performances, for the most part, okay. Guzan in goal had to make a few good saves. The penalty, I don't know. I get really frustrated whenever a keeper guesses the wrong way, just because it just kind of irks me as a keeper coach. Like, I hate it whenever my keepers guess. I always say wait and then make the dive. You know, you can try to read them if you can, but I prefer you wait and then try to make the save. And if they put it in the corner, well, it's just a good PK. But if you dive and guess beforehand and they just kick it, you know, not towards the corner, just somewhere down near the middle, then you look like an idiot for guessing wrong. And so that did kind of irk me a little bit. I realize saving PKs is not a very easy thing to do, but I still prefer that keepers just don't guess. You know, just look, try to read their body language, but ultimately you wait until the last second, you see where the ball's headed, and then you make a quick reaction towards it. But other than that, you know, he had to be aware of a lot of stuff. You know, there were times whenever they were breaking forward with a lot of numbers and had a pretty good chance, and he had to be ready to come out and collect. So he did well overall on the night. It's just that one little thing is just a pet peeve of mine. Walks on the right, I thought probably had his best game so far. I was honestly really surprised because there were just so many moments where he was quick to the ball. His crosses looked a lot better tonight. He was whipping them into very dangerous areas instead of on the other side of the box where nobody's waiting. Yeah, defensively he looked sound. He looked fast going forward. He looked like he had a lot of license to kind of get forward and get up and help in the attack. And so it was very interesting to see. You know, he looked a lot more involved tonight. But I thought overall he had a very good game and probably the best game he's had so far this season. Michael in the middle, definitely the best defender out of the 4, though. He just, what else can I say about him that I haven't already said? You know, he doesn't really lead with his voice. He leads with his actions, though. You know, he reads the play so well. He's a very good defender. He's a strong defender. He's somebody that you don't expect him to really beat that little guy that kept diving everywhere for Kansas City. You don't expect him to beat him in a foot race, but he's so smart in how he uses his strength and the little bit less speed that he has. He's so smart in how he uses it, it doesn't matter that that little guy is faster because he's still going to put his body in the way and make sure he's the first one to the ball, make sure he gets a pass away to Guzan or just kicks it out of bounds, one or the other. But he's a very smart defender, and that's my type of player. I love players who are very intelligent and just know what they're doing on the field. Perez, not as much, but he's still a very physical defender. He's somebody who he loves to get into a challenge. I still think he was hard done by on a couple just because there were so many chances where he wins it, but then a foul's called on because whatever his name was just kept falling and falling and falling. And so, yes, he's a very physical player, but at some point you do have to realize, okay, these refs are idiots, so I can't really put in as strong of a challenge as I normally want to. So maybe back off a little bit. Maybe kind of stand him up, put yourself in a position to where he can't turn you, but don't necessarily go into him because you know he's going to fall over and you know the referee's an idiot and is going to call it. And that's something that has kind of been a theme over the past few games. Watching Orlando, I can't remember who it was now. I think it was Dwyer, was just going over so easily. Oh, Kaka was the other one. That was every single time you touch him, fall over. And yet Perez just kept going into every single challenge like that. He kept going in strong, and they just fall over, and the referee, tweet, I'm an idiot, I'm giving a foul. Know that, and then adjust how you're playing so that way the referee doesn't have a chance to be an idiot because you didn't put yourself in that situation. And then Mikey on the left side, he's a player that I've really wanted to see get a bit of a chance, and with Garza getting hurt in the MLS All-Star game, this kind of gave him a chance to show what he could do. I'm glad he was the first choice after Garza just because I think he's better than what we've seen from Bloom and better than what we've seen from, I don't know, pretty much any fullback that we've seen so far. I don't know, he's got a good bit of speed to him. He seems like he's willing to battle even if somebody stronger than him is trying to win the ball. He seems like a player who's just willing and ready to put all of his effort out there. Tonight, I will say probably not a great showing from him, especially for somebody who's trying to break into the first team picture. He played pretty well, but there were a few moments, mainly going forward, where he didn't really impress. And I think that's where, Garza, not really an all-around great defender, but he does bring something going forward that keeps him in the team week after week. And while he hasn't done it very well recently, he started off the season so well, just getting forward, helping out in the attack, moving the ball around quickly with players like Yamil and Miguel. It looked beautiful. Mikey's not great at that, and you could tell, there are so many moments where Miguel's trying to play a ball through to him or Yamil's trying to lay a ball off for him, and he's not reading it as well as probably Greg would, so I need some water. So I do kind of hate it for him just because I do want to see him get some more time and start to grow as a player. But I will say probably not the best showing for a player trying to break in. Carlos and Jeff in the middle, both pretty solid. Both, I think, were hard done by quite a few situations. Just, there are so many moments where you think you won the ball. You did win the ball, but the player just falls over and the ref is an idiot. It's tough in those situations. As a player, I know it sucks, to constantly put in these great challenges, to be a player who's willing to go in and win the ball and be like, I'm going to do everything I can to win the ball back, and to constantly have the referee just shutting you down every single time you do that, just because the other players are flopping around on the field and the ref's just falling for every single one, it sucks. And yet they continue to do it. They continue to put themselves in those situations, but not. It's a bit different than the Perez situation, because with him, he's doing it in very dangerous situations right outside the box, like, oh crap, now they have a good chance of a free kick. Jeff and Carlos do it in situations where it's more like at midfield, but if they do win it back, and if the referee is not an idiot for that one time, they win the ball back in a dangerous situation that we get to counterattack in. It's a dangerous situation for them instead of for us. So I just think the confidence to sort of go into every challenge, even when the ref is constantly just shutting down every single challenge you put in. It's nice to see that they aren't, I guess, affected by the referee's calls. They aren't getting upset. They aren't just flying into challenges and sliding in and be like, whatever, screw the ref, I'm just going to do whatever I want. They're smart about it. They go in very well. They win the ball back very well. I like both of them in the midfield right now. Jeff, obviously, for me, has been one of my more favorite players just because of how well he reads the game and how many times he steps in and makes great interceptions. But Carlos has really started to step up in the defensive department as well, and he's really started to grow as a player that is not just sliding in every single time the ball's near him. He's actually starting to grow in the defensive part of his game too, which is what we need. So I think he's starting to do well too. And then we've got Yamil, Miguel, and again Julian on the right. Once again with Joseph out, it hurts just because we've got to play Julian. And I don't know. I say we have to. The truth is, we don't. And this is my biggest problem, and I'm going to talk about him first. He doesn't bring anything to the field. He doesn't do anything special anymore. Before, I didn't really like him as a player. I thought, he was not that fast, quick. He's not really that quick-footed. There's nothing that he brings that I'm just like, that's why we need him out there. But at the beginning of the season, he was producing. He was getting assists. He was getting goals. What's he done recently? Nothing. He hasn't gotten anywhere near an assist. He finally had a shot tonight that was halfway decent and is still wide. He just doesn't provide anything for us anymore, and he loses the ball so many times whenever he has it. I just don't understand why we continue to turn to him as our first option whenever players like Brandon and Kevin, in my opinion, both of them are constantly doing everything they can whenever they're on the field to try to make sure that we keep the ball instead of just constantly giving it away. I don't know, I look at both of them, I think they've got to be better options. They've got to be better options than just Tito up top, Julian out right. It hasn't really worked that well recently. Yes, you can say, well, we haven't gotten beaten, but the truth is, we haven't really been dominating matches like we used to. Before, whenever Joseph was out, and we started doing this little system, and it worked for a few games. There were a couple games, even without Joseph, where we looked dominant, we looked like a good team, even without our best striker. But the past 3 games, it's been like this. It's been this lineup. It's been Tito up top, Julian on the right, Miguel in the middle, Yamil on the left. That's been our front 4. And we just have not looked nearly as lethal. We've had to pop up with a late goal. A couple of them have just been lucky goals. You think about the one from Tito, how many times did he rip that shot completely wide? And then at one time when we needed it the most, he happens to get it and wins the game in Orlando. Tonight, ball's bouncing around. Brandon does well to chest it, and it just bounces off the defender right into Jacob's path, and he slots it away. How lucky is that we happen to get that right when we need it, right at the end of the game? So, I don't know. I'm looking at this stuff and I'm thinking we're not nearly as effective going forward with this formation. We need to change something. We can't keep having this, we're barely scraping by, we're nicking late goals. We used to be a team that could score in the first 15 minutes every single game. We wouldn't always win, we'd give up a couple later on, but we'd always score in the first 15. We were lethal in the first 15 minutes. Now we're a team that has to rely on a late goal to either win the game or equalize. We can't keep having that. So, in my opinion, Julian is a big part of that. I think we take him out of the team, you move Tito out there and then put Brandon up top, something like that. Maybe even try Jacob out there because he looked pretty good tonight from what I saw. But we need to do something different because that's not working anymore. But aside from Julian, Miguel and Yamil in the middle and on the left, once again, Miguel continually just improving and just impressing. Even whenever he's not really getting the goals, he's not getting the assists, he still impresses just because of how much work he puts in on both sides of the ball too. Yamil is a player that, like I've said before, the one thing that keeps me saying, okay, yes, keep him out there, even when his passes are bad, even when dribbling, he dribbles into pressure and loses it. He always tries to win it back. He's always a player that I'm going to go win it back. I'm not just going to let them have it. I want the ball. And I think that's very admirable from an attacking player. Miguel, same way. It's something that I've noticed but I haven't really talked about. He's also a player that loves to try to go get the ball back, especially in dangerous situations. A couple times he does turn off, and that's the one thing Emil does a bit better. Is I don't think I've ever really seen him turn off when the ball's near him, unless it's like last minute of the game and he's dead. But Miguel at times can turn off, but he still tries to win the ball back whenever he can, especially when the team needs it. Whenever he sees that there's a good chance they could counter on us, he's like, no, I'm going to win it back. And on top of that, he's producing going forward. His passes are good, his movement's really good, creates some very dangerous situations for us. So he just brings a lot to the table and continues to impress week in, week out. So love having a player like Miguel on our team. And then Tito up top, another very average game from him. I've honestly thought the past 2 games he's looked, for the most part, fairly average. In Orlando, he did work pretty well overall. But as far as his passes, his dribbles coming off, most of them didn't. But in that game, and then in the game when we were at home against Orlando, both of them, despite the fact that he didn't really impress, despite the fact that he didn't do much, he got himself a goal, which kind of says, okay, so that's good. Unfortunately tonight, still the same, but he doesn't get a goal. And so now his performance, instead of getting like, oh yeah, that was about a 7 or 7.5, because he didn't really do much, but then he got the goal. Well, tonight it was he didn't do much and he didn't score and he came off, and yeah, it's disappointing for him. So I don't know how to improve him. I think putting him on the right would probably help him a little bit more. I think teams have figured out how to deal with him. I think they've realized, okay, he's really fast. He loves to try to get behind the defense. And most defenders now will just drop off against him instead of trying to step to and let him go past him. So I think moving him back out right, introducing Brandon into the middle, will probably inject a little bit of life and I guess a different style of player into the middle than anything the teams have seen before whenever they played us. So just a little tidbit there for him. But as far as the subs are concerned, first one was Jacob for Julian. A sub I wasn't really sure about, just because Kevin has kind of been our first go-to sub if we needed a player who just brings a lot of pace and energy onto the field. And on top of that, Jacob's back from injury just recently. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. When I saw him like the first game before he got injured, I was like, okay, yeah, he works pretty hard. He runs a lot. He seems like he's got a good bit of speed, but I didn't really see much from him. Tonight, I'll say, still the same, pretty much overall, but I did see a little bit more of a hard-working player that's willing to work hard to win the ball back. And that's a player that I really like. Like I said for Yamil, I love seeing whenever he works back, even as an attacking player, and works back to win the ball. Jacob kind of does the same thing, so in my opinion, it's a good go-to if we need a wing player in there. He's a good option. I don't know why I got a scratch in the back of my throat, but it really, really sucks. So, next sub. This one didn't make as much sense to me, but it kind of worked out, I guess. Chris McCann on for Jeff. He's a player that still, I'm just like, I don't know what he brings to the field. I don't know, does he help us attacking-wise? Does he help us defensively? I don't know. I haven't seen enough from him. Obviously, I've seen a lot of him, but I haven't seen anything from him that's really shown me why he's out there. Why do you turn to him? What's his purpose on the field? If you put Kevin in there, I know he's in there for his work rate. He's in there because he loves to try to win the ball back. So I know why he goes in, but why do you turn to Chris? What does he bring to the field? I still don't see that. I still don't see what Tata sees in him that, hey, let's put him out there. Let's bring off one of our best defensive players on the field right now for Chris. Is he more attacking than Jeff? Maybe. I don't know. but he did okay. You know, he didn't really do anything amazing. He didn't do anything really poor either. I don't know. He's such an average player to me, and I wish I could see more from him. I wish I could see why Tata continues to choose him, but for now, it's his choice. Um, and then the final sub was Brandon on for Tito, and in my opinion, it was a very good move. It was one I thought was going to happen a lot sooner, but he waited pretty late for it. But it ended up pretty much doing exactly what you'd expect. You know, he comes into the field, and now we've got a body to aim for. You know, we've got somebody up there who can win the ball in the air, and it's exactly what we needed. I mean, every single time a cross came in, every single time we get a free kick and we have a chance to cross it in, it's dangerous. You know, he's there. He's somewhere near the vicinity of where the ball's going because he's just so good in the air. And it's something that, honestly, when he came in, I'm like, okay, now we have a player that's pretty good in the air. The very first, I think it was the very first cross in, like he's up in the air. I'm like, wow, he gets up really, really high. Like I don't know what it is. He's obviously very tall, especially for being I think 18, 19, somewhere in there. He's very tall for his age. But the fact that he can jump really high too means that he's getting up above even the tallest defenders whenever the cross comes in, and it led to the goal. I mean, cross comes in, he does well to chest it down. Defenders come and put pressure on him. He holds them off pretty well. One of them ends up, it is luck after this, you know, flicks off the defender into Jacob's path. But that initial winning it in the air, that initial bringing it down off your chest and holding off the defenders for a second while Jacob has time to make the run inside, that is exactly what we need from him. And that's why, you know, watching him, he does have his moments he is young, so kind of naive. You do see those moments still in his game, but overall, I think if you watch him play, if you watch what he brings to the field, I think he deserves some time. I think he definitely deserves probably to get at least a few starts through September whenever we've got like 10 games back to back to back. I just think he should be one of your first players to go to whenever you've got somebody out with injury or you need somebody that needs to take a break. He should be one of the ones we turn to because he's showing he's got the ability to do it. We just got to give him more of a chance. We got to start working him more so he can continue to improve. So that's about it for all of this. I realize this is probably taking a long time to get through, but I had a lot on my mind. I really wanted to get it all off my chest, so that's about it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Who was your man of the match? Let me know. We can talk about it and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game.